dance with me, my ghost in grey. Our end is close most every day. Blue-grey circles in the sky. The future's bleak for you and I. Show me your sky dancing skills with pure ballet past the kill to the ringtail on the wing. Dance as winter turns to spring. They hunt me, trap me, shoot me down. Help me, hear me cry out loud. Hear the sound of distant guns. Something evil this way comes. Scorched earth now where once you flew. Grouse moles mean there's less of you. They hide the bodies, hide the tags, deeply buried in peat hags. Blinding truth is like a lantern, for they can never hide the pattern. They hunt me, trap me, shoot me down. Help me, hear me cry.
Hello! Hello everyone. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Hello. Hello everyone. Welcome to Skydancer Day 2024 from the incredible RSPB Insh Marshes here in the Cairngorms. We're so excited to be here. Thank you very, very much for joining us. And I can't quite believe how lucky we are. So we are in Scotland in May in the Cairngorms. And it's dry. It is dry.
Oh.
There is not really any wind, and most importantly, there are no midges.
It's a dangerous,
It's really
dangerous thing to say.
As long as it holds for like an hour or so, I think we're going to be okay. I do feel a bit risky saying it, but no, we're so excited. We're very, very excited to be here. I'm very excited to have these conditions. My name is Christina Sinclair. I'm a presenter and filmmaker. I'm a marine biologist, and I'm kind of just an all-round nature nerd as well. You know, if it flies in the sky, crawls in the mud, you know, swims in the sea, I'm pretty into it. I like that stuff. But of course, it's not just me here today. I'm joined by these two lovely people as well.
Yes. Hi, I'm Lauren Cook. I'm a research scientist and I'm also an artist. And I try and combine the sort of art and science approaches to communicate about nature and get people to connect with it on a different level.
Nice. Hello, I'm George Hassall. I'm a gardener, bird watcher, and to be honest, just all-round weird nature boy, to be honest.
Aren't we all?
If it's skimming stones, getting in the mud, if it's rotting and smelly, it will probably be in my attic, along with various things. And yeah, I know, lovely, I know. My greenhouse is full of skulls. That makes me sound a bit dodgy when I've said that out loud. Moving on, yeah. Anyway, I'm also a student studying at the University of Stirling doing environmental science. So why are we all here today? So it is Skydancer Day. What is Skydancer Day, you may be asking? It's basically, I don't know. It's a day for celebrating hen harriers and other upland species, and of course talking about their threats and what we can do both on the large scale and the small scale to help them.
Absolutely.
Yes, so for the next hour or so, we'll be hearing all about the uplands, celebrating the wildlife, learning about the threats and hearing from those who are striving to protect and enhance nature around the uplands. And I, for one, am extremely excited to be here. It's my first visit to the Cairngorms.
No way.
And it's really delivering. There's curlews flying over.
Yeah. I keep getting distracted by all the wildlife around us.
It's stunning. But what are you both most looking forward to about today?
I've got to say, it's probably sharing stories about hen harriers. I mean, I had a lovely experience recently. I was on Kintyre. Me and my dad were doing a little bit of bird watching, and we spotted a female hen harrier. It was amazing. We were watching it harrying over the moorland. Sorry. We're catching this beep 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 beep. I'm like, what's that? You know, thinking is it a warbler or something, and then beep beep, and it was like harrying over these moors. And then we realised it clicked. It was a ringtail.
Oh man. Well, I'm looking forward to some actual good storytelling. I'm actually looking forward to some real content, some real stuff. No, to be fair, I can't come up with jokes on the fly, so fair play to
It's only
that.
3 hours, but you know.
No, I mean, I am really looking forward to hearing these stories. Not only of Hen Harrier conservation, but you know, this kind of landscape scale restoration that's going on in the Cairngorms National Park and has been for the last few decades. It's so exciting, you know. Our national park should be our beacons of, you know, pristine nature. You know, what should be here if it wasn't impacted by us. And you know, I do get quite sad sometimes driving up the A9 and all you see is just these barren hillscapes. But you know, once you get to the heart of the Cairngorms, there's a real transformation going on. There's such an effort and so much community spirit to transform this landscape for both people and wildlife, you know, which is, you know, the future we all want to see. So yeah, I'm really, really excited for those stories. Can't wait to see them.
Yeah.
Shall we kick off then?
Let's do it.
Shall we
Let's rock
really?
and roll.
Kicking off Skydancer Day.
Yeah.
Well, we need to first of all talk to you about this amazing habitat and this amazing venue that we're in right now. We're feeling so privileged to be here. This is RSPB Insh Marshes, and as the name suggests, it is an incredible marshland habitat, a huge wetland that's being restored back to its natural floodplain status. So the RSPB have had this area since 1973, I believe, so they've been here for a good few decades and they've been working incredibly hard. So the area spans about 1,000 hectares across the River Spey, and as I said, it's being restored to that natural floodplain status. So in times of heavy rainfall, these marshes will absorb a lot of that rainwater. Apparently, it has an ability to absorb 35 million cubic metres of water. It's a big sponge. So it soaks in that water. You get marshland, you get pools of water and ponds forming, and it makes this incredible habitat for wading species and wading birds especially. We've got lapwing, we've got curlew, we've got redshanks, all these amazing wading species, and of course lots of predators as well. We saw a marsh harrier within 5 minutes of arriving yesterday. White-tailed sea eagles are regularly seen flying over. It's just incredible. But of course during drought seasons as well, during periods of low rainfall, these marshlands retain that water and are an essential source of water for all sorts of species, you know, plant and animal included. So it's an amazing, amazing reserve. And a symbol, I think, for what we should be trying to restore with our wetlands. But I'm not going to give too much away because we're going to kick off with our first film now from Julie Ellis, who's the warden, or one of the wardens of the RSPB Insh Marshes, and she's going to tell us a little bit more about what they're working on. Let's take it away, Julie. So I'll speak. Would you like to come on in?
Sorry, I need to get past. I don't know why I was so
Insh Marshes is approximately 10 square kilometres, of which 850 hectares is owned by the RSPB, and 540 hectares or so of that is the active floodplain of the River Spey. The habitats that are part of Insh Marshes range from woodlands on higher ground. We've got aspen, birch, pine, even the riparian woodlands of the alder and willow along the riverside, down through moorland and wildflower meadows to the marsh itself, the floodplain, which can be up to 3 metres deep underwater. Wintering birds here include hen harriers and whooper swans. And in summer we have breeding ospreys as well as the breeding waders on the floodplain itself. So curlew, snipe, lapwing, redshank and golden-eye duck as well along the riverside. The woodlands, we have several rare invertebrates. We've got a very large aspen woodland, so that holds invertebrates that are rare across the UK and Scotland, so aspen hoverfly and dark-bordered beauty moth. We've also got rannoch sprawler and Kentish glory in the birch woodlands as far as invertebrates go. So as well as the aspen woodland, other plant specialists here on the wetland, we've got least yellow water lily and also string sedge, which there are only 2 sites in Scotland, so we're very proud of looking after that. Currently, reserve management involves managing the habitat to encourage and support the rare species for which we're designated here. Special projects going on the reserve include the river restoration, where we're trying to encourage the floodplain back to its natural dynamism rather than fighting it. We've also got the curlew life project, where we're studying the curlew breeding population here and factors that affect it and how we can support them. We've got the Life 100% project, which here involves conic ponies grazing on the marsh itself in the reed bed and surrounding areas. We also excitingly have recently had beavers translocated here, so that's a new species for the reserve, certainly for the last few hundred years. We'll continue to support the biodiversity for which this area is known, whilst encouraging the floodplain back to its natural dynamism rather than fighting it. All this whilst being part of the Cairngorms Connect landscape scale partnership and its 200-year vision for the future.
Oh, fantastic. And we can attest that all those species mentioned are here. We've had everything flying over our heads, curlew calling in the background. It's been lovely. And I'm so pleased to say that we've got Julie actually here with us today, and she's going to tell us even more about this incredible reserve. So thank you so much for joining us again and giving us even more of your time. We very much appreciate it. So first of all, I suppose it's pretty clear from us being here for like 5 minutes and watching the film that there's a pretty remarkable biodiversity present here, right? Do you have any particular favourite species or ones that you're really proud that are here? What's your favourites?
Oh, that's a difficult question.
Yeah.
Because, as you know, so many, and I guess it changes every time you're out here watching.
Of course.
You've seen this, the latest. But you caught me at the time of year when we're out doing breeding bird surveys on the marsh. So feels incredibly privileged to set your alarm really early, but then actually once you're out, get out on the marsh and be surrounded by those breeding birds that you're hearing, the curlew, the redshank, the snipe. And a favourite has to be the snipe, just because of the numbers of them out there, and they do this thing when they're breeding, when they do drumming.
Yes!
Sound as they're flying over you.
I heard that once years ago, and it took me ages to work out what was actually going on. I thought there was like a plane overhead that was coming to get me or something.
That's right.
It's unbelievable sound.
Absolutely, it's a sound you don't expect from a bird.
No.
When you're out there and there are a lot of them, they're all around you, and it's just amazing to know that this wildlife is, you're going right through where it is and coming out again.
Yeah.
So that's one favourite, and another is, again, near where we are now, we're in the aspen woodland, and aspen's a fairly rare species, although it's native. So to have a big woodland of that, and it's got an awful lot of species that are reliant on it. So the aspen hoverfly, the dark bordered beauty moth, all these specialists that are really rare because there is so little aspen. So aspen's another favourite of mine.
Yeah. I like that there's a mixture of plant and animal favourites in there, because you can't have one without the other, can you?
That.
Oh, fantastic. And it does really come across that the reserve is about, it's not just about protecting a couple of species, is it? It's more about that landscape, is that right?
Exactly that.
Yeah.
So although we've got things like the Curlew Life project that obviously is focusing on curlew, it's curlew within its landscape, finding out what it needs, what we can then replicate in other areas. And actually at Inch, it's us sitting, we're not an island in the Highlands, we are surrounded by a much larger landscape that you can see here, so we're part of that, and we're trying to keep this bit special, but hopefully as part of the bigger picture. Landscape.
No, absolutely. It's been such a positive movement, I think, in conservation, hasn't it, been in the last few decades, that, protecting individual species is not the way forward, actually. Thinking of that ecosystem approach is making the change we want to see, isn't it? What do you think? I mean, the reserve's obviously been here and managed by RSPB for a while. What do you think are some of the biggest achievements that have come out of the reserve so far?
Probably not to be repetitive, but probably is being more aware of how special this landscape is, but how it is replicated all over Scotland. So other floodplains could be like Insh Marshes.
Yeah.
But yeah, achievements, I guess you do go back to species, and in fact we've got a fairly stable curlew population when unfortunately it's crashing elsewhere. The waders generally. The most recent was the beavers. They're still in the reserve. They're doing amazing beavery things in a beavery habitat.
And we're going to be talking about them later, don't you worry.
That's right. So we built, and also just at the other end of the reserve we've got the ospreys nesting, and they've been there year in, year out, through thick and thin, and are fairly visible to people passing, so a really nice sort of visible part of the work we're doing as well.
Yeah, a proper symbol of the Cairngorms, aren't they, the ospreys, and now hopefully the beavers are there as well.
That's right, absolutely.
It's fantastic. Last question then, what do you hope for the future of the reserve?
Well, more of the same, because all the hard work we're doing, hopefully it'll become a more sustainable reserve, and we'll do less, and it'll actually be a natural, dynamic floodplain.
Sure.
But also, in that is part of, as I say, I'm getting a bit repetitive, sorry, but we're part of that bigger landscape. So it's the connectedness. If we didn't have water coming onto the reserve, it wouldn't be a floodplain. So it's about the rivers that flow down from the mountains. It's about the peat restoration on the mountains. So. We're part of Cairngorms Connect, which has this 200-year landscape scale vision of conservation, and that's our future. Like I say, replication across Scotland and the UK. Yeah. It's all positive. Hard work, but positive.
Yeah, I can imagine. I know we're so appreciative to you guys for doing that work, because it's so needed. And yeah, thank you so much for joining us today and giving us your time when, I'm sure we're important. But, out there, the work out there is important, but we need to communicate that work, don't we? So, thank you so much for joining us. And speaking of Cairngorms Connect, actually, George, I believe you've got a little bit to tell us about that, haven't you?
I do. So, what actually is Cairngorms Connect? Well, it's a partnership between different organisations, so, nature organisations, land managers, charitable organisations, basically all gathering together like something out of Live Aid to do some Woodstock level conservation work.
Rockstar conservation.
Rockstar conservation, love it. We're not just talking, one habitat being rewilded here. We're talking a massive area, it's 600 square kilometres. Now this is a 200-year project, but you can already see the work that's being put in. I mean, you walk around Loch Garten, you walk up in the mountains, the sort of wildlife that you see that's being protected from, ptarmigan and snow bunting to, crested tit and, the angry Scottish turkey that is the capercaillie. So many...
Why did you gesture to me there?
Sorry, the angry... anyway, moving on. So many amazing species being protected with this partnership.
Absolutely. Oh, it's brilliant. And we're now going to move on. We've got a film all about Cairngorms Connect. And we're going to hear from Karen Birkby, who's another warden here at Insh Marshes. And she's going to tell us all about all the projects going on and the members and their hope for the future.
So Cairngorms Connect is a partnership of like-minded landowners that have all come together to deliver ecological restoration, and we have a 200-year vision to restore the landscape across a big vast area of the Cairngorms National Park, which is around 600 square kilometres of landholding between the partnerships and the partners. The partners are RSPB Scotland, Wildland, Nature Scot and Forest and Land Scotland. So the partners came together, it'll be 6 or 7 years ago now, and the board was formed. The board have been meeting on a monthly basis ever since the partnership was formed. We have a memorandum of understanding that sets out what the partnership's goals and aims are, and then there's various groups meet to develop partnership plans. So we have a land managers group, we have a deer management group, we have a comms and engagement group, and that way it's a regular way of sharing sharing ideas, sharing our vision and building ideas for the future. So Cairngorms Connect is a connected landscape. Nature doesn't recognise lines on a map, it doesn't recognise fences, it doesn't recognise boundaries. So the strength of the partnership is we're working across a connected area. We're creating a resilient landscape where nature will be more resilient to climate change in the future. Yeah, the partnership's working across a range of habitats, up from the montane habitats right through down to the rivers and floodplains in the valley bottom. So in the montane habitats, we're replacing or we're reintroducing lost species. So some of the montane scrub that's been lost through overgrazing, we're growing trees in the tree nursery at Abernethy, and then volunteers are carrying those trees into the upland habitats and planting them out. Then the forest, we're trying to bring that forest up to the natural tree line, the altitudinal tree line of 600 metres through forest expansion work, through controlling herbivores. In the forests themselves, we're restructuring the plantations, we're restructuring the forest, creating deadwood to create the best Caledonian pine forest habitat that we can possibly create. And then through to the floodplains such as Insh Marshes, we're restoring rivers by reconnecting the river and floodplain and working on some of the canalised rivers that were modified 200 years ago to re-meander them to get them working in a more naturally functioning way. So all our work is based on science and monitoring, so we take the best evidence that we can and apply that to the restoration that we're doing. We're also heavily monitoring the restoration that we're doing to be able to tweak what we're doing, to be able to look to see if it's delivering the results we want so that we can then implement any changes we need in our land management practices. We're also working with communities. We want communities to be an active part of our vision for Cairngorms Connect. So involving people in nature. Nature is a big part of people's mental health, and to have people engaged in what we're doing is really important. We're also working with quite a few rare and endangered species, such as the aspen hoverfly and the dark-bordered beauty moth. Both have very specific requirements that we can find here on the reserve. And I guess the general hope is that our intervention and our management here means that some of these rarer species are able to thrive in the landscape such as Cairngorms Connect.
Well, we have a huge welcome to Taste class. Thank you so much for joining us. And Taste is part of the Insh Marshes Nature Reserve as well, and part of the Cairngorms Connect. So that was honestly an incredible film. It's such an ambitious project, 600 kilometres squared over 200 years. Kind of makes you feel small, doesn't it? But I was really wondering about, in that film, Karen talks about the reconnecting the landscape and how connecting these habitats together can help nature to become more resilient against climate change and things like that. So I was just wondering if you could explain a bit how that makes nature more resilient.
Yeah, absolutely. When we talk about climate resilience, it's really, you have to think large scale. And you're talking about things like flood mitigation and wildfire risks and things like that, and they don't stop at boundaries either, so the solution shouldn't either. And you're talking about ecosystem processes that are working on big scale as well, and therefore you need big areas, and you have to work with a lot of people together. And you mentioned Cairngorms Connect as being big, but when I look at it from an ecological point of view, it isn't. Like I think further than that, on landscape scale, means we have to, even Cairngorms Connect is looking at its borders and thinking like, oh, actually we should make changes here as well and start talking to the people who are neighbouring Cairngorms Connect, and eventually that comes down to a holistic, nationwide plans, and that's really where it all should go in the end.
Absolutely.
But we have these good examples that show it can work, so that's good.
Need more and more partners involved.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it'd be brilliant. And all of this restoration work going on across, multiple different varieties of habitats, and I'm wondering what kind of things you're looking at, you're measuring and monitoring to inform the restoration practices.
Yeah, so it takes a lot of work, and we have technology to our advantage. So one of the things we have out on the floodplain, I think we have about 20 waterloggers at the moment that are keeping an eye on how the water levels are changing throughout the years, but and through the seasons as well. But so we see bigger floods coming in the last few years. We see them, floods, they call them once in 200-year floods that we see every 15 years now. So things like that we can monitor like that with the waterloggers. We've got a lot of camera traps out. I think at the top of my head about 30 at the moment, looking at all the interactions and the mammal populations we have on the reserve, just to keep an eye on how that competition and how that dynamic is working between our predators on the reserve, lacking some top predators in the system, and seeing, okay, what do we need to do to make this function for our ground nesting waders as well, and things like that. We've got cameras on the rivers as well to see how the habitats on the rivers are changing because of the way we encourage the dynamic system to work. So we can see shingle banks developing and others developing more into a wooded area along the river, but then new shingle banks developing as well, trees falling in the water. So we need a way to quantify that. So there's camera traps on the river, and those differences are being analysed as well. So that's some of the ways that we're doing. We're monitoring how wildlife is changing, but then we have also just work feet on the ground. Lots of people counting birds for decades already. We've got some amazing records for the reserve going back almost 50 years, and so we can see those trends of those populations changing with the landscape really. So that's quite nice to see as well.
Yeah, we're quite lucky in the UK, aren't we, with our bird data? I think it's very kind of populated because people are really interested in it, and butterflies is another one. It's brilliant, and involving so many different people as well. And we saw in the footage the work being done to restore rivers and put a load of dead wood back into the forests and everything like that. And I was wondering where you're getting these people involved from. So is it volunteering, or is it creating some more jobs in the community? How's that work?
Yeah, one of the reasons I came to this area, because I was looking for a job for about half a year, and every month something would come up in this area that I was like, yeah, I'd like to do that, please. So there's definitely a lot going on in this area, and it attracts people like me that, so people come from far and wide to come and help be part of this as well. But I think in the long-term sustainability point of view as well, local people need to be involved. So that's where we really want to get people from as well, getting involved. And we are more and more, I would say. With any project I'm involved with, whether it's curlews or beavers, or there's always local people that I'd be keen to be involved and pick up some skills, and eventually they start working for us as well. So that's how we do it, and it takes a lot. And I see, so we work a lot with volunteers as well. They are key in what we do, but I always see volunteers as not a way for me to do less. It's like we can do more with volunteers, but it doesn't take away the fact that I have to keep doing the same amount of work, because that takes a lot of work as well. But we work with lots of local people. They are out every week for us on the reserve, collecting valuable data and questioning what we do as well, which is super important. They have that local knowledge sometimes, and just completely question what we do, and we have to justify what we do sometimes as well, and that's a brilliant aspect of that as well.
Fantastic.
Yeah, super. It's kind of co-educating each other about the area. Yeah. Oh, well, that was brilliant. Thank you so much for joining us as well. And now we're gonna, I think, move on to our competition time.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Tace.
Sweet. Yes, thank you very much. Yep. So we have just recently launched a new writing competition, Young Wild Writers, encouraging young people to get expressing their love of nature through writing. And we've got a very, very special guest. We've got Jill Lewis, who is a really acclaimed author who's travelled all around the world as a vet, literally from Antarctica to the Arctic. So, hello Jill, hopefully you can hear me there.
Hello, thank you for welcoming me. I wish I could join you up at the Insh Marshes. I'm very, very jealous, actually. But I do live in Pembrokeshire, and this morning I heard my first grasshopper warbler of the year, so that was really exciting. So while I wish I'm with you, it's quite nice down here as well.
It's a good alternative.
Absolutely, Pembrokeshire ain't bad, is it? Aye. So, so I wanted to ask you a little bit about sort of where did your sort of love of nature sort of first arise as being a child?
I think very much like yourself and Laura and Christina, just ever since I was really little, I was just fascinated by anything that sort of crawled or swam or flew. I collected bugs and brought them into, I had a doll's house, so I'd fill up my doll's house with spiders and earwigs and all these sorts of things. And I loved skulls as well. So I think it was innate. But I grew up in sort of suburban Bath, where we had it's quite a big garden because it's very steep, and that was my wilderness. That was sort of the jungles that I wanted to explore, and that sort of area really just fed all the sort of fascination with wildlife.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's the same for a lot of sort of people grow up. It's that connection, in our gardens, on our doorstep, that really sort of that feeds that passion.
If you have a connection as a child, that lasts all the way through to you being an adult, doesn't it?
Absolutely. So obviously it's Skydancer Day today. What is sort of your fondest memory of a hen harrier?
Well, my fondest, and actually one of my only memories of a hen harrier, because they are so rare because of the persecution, is I saw them after writing my book about hen harriers. I went to see them on the Isle of Arran, and I really wanted to see one, and we heard that there was some on this at the end of this long walk. We marched for miles and miles. The rain was coming down, and I thought, I'm never going to see a hen harrier. And then it's one of those moments, when the sort of clouds part, the sun shines through, and then there were these two birds which were just tumbling, and it was the most magical scene. It really was. There's something about seeing, any sort of birds, and especially birds of prey, but especially a hen harrier, because they're so rare, that suddenly seeing them is just like this moment. It's a moment of awe where your mouth drops open and you just can't help watching this amazing display in front of you.
It's a real privilege, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, isn't it? It feels like you're watching something very mystical.
Yeah.
It does.
It does. So you published the book Skydancer in 2017. It's about a young lad who's grown up surrounded by moorlands, surrounded by gamekeeping and grouse shooting. He's then kind of caught between a sort of rift between tradition and a love for protecting nature. So why do you think it's really sort of important to kind of hook kids at a young age through your books?
I think engaging young people with stories and writing is one way of bringing these issues to the fore. So if you don't grow up on the sort of uplands or the moorlands, then you can understand an issue. And I think one of the things that books help you, or fiction books about factual events help young people do, is to sort of take them on that journey, to be able to see lots of different perspectives. So I try to give the perspective of this boy Joe, who's a gamekeeper's son, and see the conflicts he has with trying to agree with the tradition behind him, but also try to find a future way, which is going to preserve the birds. So I think that's the importance of literature, whether it's non-fiction or fiction. It's a way of raising awareness, a way of engaging people, and then empowering people, so that you feel that young people feel they can change their future. And that's the power of words, especially with writing their own stories. That's, empowers them to make a difference as well.
Absolutely. I feel like it's so important what you're saying about transporting kids, because obviously, you know, moorland, particularly in England, it's a very rare habitat, isn't it, really? You know, people who either grow up in cities or in, you know, sort of farmland, suburban areas. It's that connection, you can almost feel yourself being transported to these amazing habitats that otherwise you might not travel to. I think that, you know, I agree, I think that's really, really important.
Absolutely.
So I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about this year's competition, so that anybody who kind of wants to sign up, wants to do some writing, kind of knows the sort of general gist of what they have to do.
Oh, well, yeah, so it's really exciting. If you look on the Hen Harrier Action website, you'll see the posters and how to submit your entries. But this is the 4th year of the Young Wild Rider competition, and every year, you know, the standard just gets higher and higher. So it's a competition for 3 different age categories: young people 5 to 8, junior 9 to 12, and senior 13 to 16. And it's writing up to 500 words. It can be either a poem, prose, an article, a newsletter. But we've got the theme this year of human impact. And that can be sort of thought of very different ways. It could be a positive story, it could be a negative story. But undeniably, human impact affects the natural world, whether or not on a global scale or as a national scale with rivers, or on a local scale, whether or not you live, you know, in a city or in a rural place. So we want people to think about the theme of human impact and to write 500 words about that theme. And it's really important to know that we're not focusing on spelling or grammar. We're really focusing on content and able to communicate an issue, because, you know, this is how we change the world with words. We sort of change hearts and minds. And that's a very, very powerful thing. So, and then there are some fab prizes. There's some Puffin, RSPB Puffin binoculars. There's some book vouchers. The overall winner has an online school Zoom meeting from myself, or if people are homeschooled, then another sort of online session could be arranged. So yeah, really exciting. We're really looking forward to getting lots of entries. So do spread the word amongst schools and individuals. That'd be great.
Oh, that's brilliant.
I wish I was younger.
I know, I do as well. I mean, it's great that we're not focusing on spelling and grammar. I might sign up for this.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I'm hoping now you're going to read maybe last year's winner to kind of inspire people and, you know, give them an idea of the sort of thing that they should be writing and going for.
Yes, well, I'll read last year's winner. It's important to say that their standards were so high, it was so difficult to choose a winner. But the overall winner was last year was George Metcalf, aged 16, in the senior category. And he wrote a piece called The Big Finale. And it's about this, set in New Zealand, it's about this kiwi bird which is surrounded by a forest fire. And it was very original because it set this stage of this sort of theatre, this awful theatre we're watching of a kiwi being surrounded by fire. And it's a little bit when we're looking on our screens, on our phones, on our computers, we're watching this destruction around the world and we almost don't want to look away, but we're sort of witness to it. And this is what sort of captured that essence. So I'll read George's Metcalf's piece, The Big Finale. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the most spectacular show on earth. Prepare to be dazzled, amazed and enthralled as I unleash the world of wonder and excitement to you. Suspend your belief, for tonight you are about to embark on a journey beyond your wildest imagination. So sit back, relax, and let the magic unfold before your very eyes. This is it, the big finale. Our stage is a forest in the heart of New Zealand's wilderness. Tall eucalyptus trees tower over like guardians protecting their territory. Their rough, scarred trunks bear witness to the passage of time, while their thin branches dance in the cool breeze. Beneath them, held like hostages, are various clumps of bushes, some bearing more vegetation than others. They cling to the dry earth beneath them, as if disdaining to be sucked up into the sky. Surrounding this helpless family of plants is a circle of fire, and our performer, an innocent little kiwi, is standing right at its centre. The flames come as little golden balls igniting the night, outshining the stars. The leaping flames burn like a temper, jumping from tree to tree as they close in on our little soldier, our warrior, our martyr. Each tree they target becomes victim to its own destruction, and from each carcass, trails of black smoke twirl heavenwards, making an artistry of its swirls and flow. Meanwhile, our slight little kiwi stands erect and motionless. Its round, brown, feathered body sits awkwardly on two spindly, knobbly legs. Two jet-black pupils swim in its pear-shaped head that pokes from side to side, desperate for a means to escape. Its wings, mere vestiges of flight, are folded near by its sides. Its beady eyes trail the sky, watching its cousin birds take flight and break into the Earth's stratosphere. High above our flightless entertainer, these birds fly on invisible strings, moving in choreographed melody. Their long, strong wings beat patterns into the chlorine blue sky, stretching it taut into silk. Around our raptor, still subjected to the crusty soil that lines the forest floor, our stage collapses. Trees victims to the raging fire fall like soldiers, throwing their splintered timbers and shards of wood in all directions. He hops around them into an effort to prolong his survival. Those trees that once offered canopy and shelter now poke out of the ground like sticks of charcoal, no more vibrant than the lampposts in a city. The air smells and tastes like a bonfire, while the horizon glows orange beneath the smoky, wind-dragged plume. The circle is closing, and it's time for our star to shine. His eyes are racing back and forth in his skull, his feet are twitching nervously, and his head is rolling in its socket. He crouches low, his wiry beak tickling the floor. He waits there, braced for impact, while the hungry flames close in on him. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is it, the big finale. So it's quite a dramatic piece, isn't it?
Goodness.
It just sets that scene of watching this terrible destruction in a very original way.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say. I was
a very, very worthy winner.
I was on the other side of the world then, and I was in New Zealand watching that. It was, really sort of...
Yeah, really evocative, really kind of powerful piece. Well, thank you.
There were so many. It's, as actually as one of the judges, it's just so hard to choose because there's so many different pieces which had originality, some really had really good communication. It's difficult judging this. You want everyone to win, actually.
I don't blame you. But no, thank you very much, Jill, anyway. That was really, really interesting. Yeah. And if you want to sign up, please do so, because it's a brilliant competition.
It is, yeah. Closing date is 7th of July, 500 words, as Jill's told us, and you can submit your entry at henharrierday.uk on the website. Yeah, so make sure, if you're interested in writing, get that in.
Absolutely. You never know what might happen. You enter one of Hen Harrier Day's competitions.
Exactly.
You end up presenting Skydancer today with these lovely
There we go.
Yeah, we may be out the job.
Well, thank you, Jill. And continuing on our theme of human impact, we're now turning to Trees for Life, and our very own Paul Samuels from Hen Harrier Action is going to be interviewing Steve Micklewright all about Trees for Life and their mission to rewild the Scottish Highlands. We'll be hearing all about the projects that are going on in the area across this huge landscape, and really sort of in-depth interview that Paul's
we'll find out, I guess, about the origins of Tree for Life, won't we? And
exactly.
kind of, they started off in Glenafric, and they've now gone through to expand across the whole Highlands, and core missions of rewilding, but then have gone to span beyond just rewilding and all the way into ecological restoration and education and engagement, and working across a brilliant scale. So I'm looking forward to hearing this.
Yeah.
Welcome to Dundregan Rewilding Centre. I'm here today with Steve Micklewright, the CEO of Trees for Life, and we're going to have a conversation about all things rewilding. Dundregan is situated north of Loch Ness and south of Glenafric, but more about Glenafric later. Thanks, Steve, for giving us your time today. And I'd like to begin by asking, what's the history of Trees for Life and how did it originate?
Yeah, well, Trees for Life kind of began in the 1980s with our founder, Alan Watson Featherstone. He was living in a place called Findhorn, but he used to spend a lot of his time in Glenafric. It was like his place of solace. And Glenafric is really special because it's got lots of the original Caledonian forest, the pine woods that should cover most of the Highlands of Scotland. And Alan kind of quickly realised that this wonderful place should be all over Scotland, particularly the Highlands, and it's missing. And he set his life objective, if you like, to restore the Caledonian forest. And then in the early 90s, the charity was formed, started to do a lot of work restoring Glenafric, and a lot of work once we bought Dundregan in 2008 to restore the Caledonian forest here. And we're starting to see a bit of a revival now, which is great, and it's all because of one man's vision and one man's mission, if you like, to bring back something that should be all over the Highlands.
And we're so glad he did. So in terms of this project as such, what are your current activities that you're undertaking presently?
So the big thing for us right now is working at landscape scale, actually. So we can restore Dundregan, we can bring back the forest here, we can restore Glenafric, but if we don't work at landscape scale, which is the scale that nature likes to work at, we won't see this revival, we won't see this rewilding that we're all looking for. So things that we're working on are things like our Afric Highlands initiative, where we're trying to rewild 500,000 acres over the next 30 years, but also things like the difficult stuff, like bringing back the missing species that should be here, that are part of this forest, part of this ecosystem, but haven't been here for hundreds of years, like beaver, and perhaps if we're lucky, lynx.
So in terms of those current projects, you must have also in mind something about your long-term vision. What would that be?
Yeah, if this rewilding thing is going to work in the Highlands of Scotland, it's got to benefit people. The thing about this landscape is there's not as much wildlife in it as there should be, and there are historically low levels of people living in this landscape. Now, rewilding, although it's about nature looking after itself, requires a lot of help right now in order to make it happen. And also, if we get rewilding happening at scale, places like this rewilding centre are going to be places where people will want to come. All of that creates jobs, all of that creates livelihoods, and the only way for us to make rewilding work is for us to demonstrate that, because then it will last. So it's about people as well as this return of nature for us now.
In some respects, I think you've been very successful already in the number of people who come here. So it's obviously having some of the benefits that you've mentioned for current populations visiting, if not living here. Yeah.
I think the thing that is really inspiring about rewilding, it's a positive thing. It's about a positive future, and we live in a world that's really kind of quite negative right now and kind of pretty desolate for lots of people. But rewilding gives hope, and hope is what we need. And so people are coming here, and people are getting involved in rewilding because they want a better future for nature and for humans as well.
I hope they do indeed. Yes. Just for the sake of being clear, how would you differentiate between rewilding and habitat restoration? Okay. Are they the same as far as you're concerned, or do they have subtle differences?
Yeah, there is a difference for me. So rewilding is about being led by nature. I always say it's looking back at the past to see a different future. So what was nature doing in the past that might apply now? And it is about being led by nature. Now, as humans, we need to do stuff. We need to facilitate rewilding, but nature should be making the decisions, if you like. And that's quite different to habitat restoration or habitat management, where you're trying to do something for a very specific objective. You might be trying to protect curlews. In rewilding, what we're trying to do is restore an ecosystem, and then one day humans won't be so needed and the ecosystem can start to look after itself.
Yes, it's a kind of let's begin and see what happens, which is quite exciting, really, because it leaves things to the imagination. Now, we mentioned earlier Glenafric specifically, and I believe you're in a rewilding partnership with Rewilding Europe. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so when Trees for Life started, Alan, our founder, was adamant that there should be like a continuous forest between Loch Ness and the west coast. And what we've done is we've turned this into this 30-year initiative that we call Afric Highlands, which is about rewilding the whole landscape. So it's about peatland restoration, it's about restoring the Caledonian forest, it's about bringing back the missing species, and all these different things. And the thing that's interesting about rewilding Europe is Afric Highlands is one of 10 other landscapes in Europe which are trying to do the same thing, working at scale, being led by nature, bringing back what we call natural processes, things that nature does just because it's nature. And I'm really proud that Afric Highlands is part of that kind of European-wide movement to restore nature, to bring back the wild to a continent that is very de-wilded.
Are you fairly optimistic about this process that you're engaged in? Are you looking forward to a sort of bright future, or have you got any reservations?
I think if we're going to do something about this nature crisis that we face and the terrible climate breakdown that we're starting to see very, very, very clearly now, and the fact that humans are really suffering, there's just like this massive well-being crisis. For me, rewilding, things like Afric Highlands, kind of does all three at once. You know, it brings back nature, it helps with climate, and it gives a better future for people. So that makes me optimistic in what are quite desperate times really these days. So we've got to have a beacon of hope, and rewilding for me is that.
Yes, well, technology doesn't have all the answers. Nature has some part to play on its own, has it not? Yeah. Well, thank you, Steve, for your time and sharing your expertise with us today. Thank you, Matteo, for being a good dog, and he's been absolutely silent all morning. So we'll be seeing you soon, and thank you very much for watching.
Brilliant. Thank you so much to Steve and Paul for that. It's a fantastic film. And yeah, as I said, a fantastic organisation, a fantastic place. Have you been to Glen Affric before?
No, I haven't. It's on my list of things to do.
It'll need to be on your next list because, you know, you get the Caledonian pine forest in the Cairngorms, but, you know, going to Glen Affric and seeing it there is truly spectacular. And I just love Trees for Life as an organisation. You know, I think they are doing so many important attributes. You know, they are doing the practical conservation, restoration work on the ground. But yeah, like I said, that engagement and education work they're doing is so important, because if people don't know what the biodiversity, what's happening with biodiversity, if they don't know what work is being done to restore it and why that work is so important, you know, you're never going to see that full scale that you need to see to really restore our species back to the levels that they should be. So I love them as an organisation. I think they do such fantastic work. And yeah, well, like when I went to Dundragon last year for 8 out of 10 bats, it was such a fantastic place, and I really recommend everyone goes, because it's in a beautiful place, it's got amazing people, they're doing such amazing work, and spending time there just gave me so much hope, you know, for nature, because you know we are in such a dire place with our biodiversity. You know, we're in biodiversity collapse, we're in climate collapse. You know, it's pretty heavy, you know, on a day-to-day basis, being interested in the environment. But spending a bit of time at Dundragon just gave me so much hope that actually we can achieve a different path. We can restore these species. We can find a balance between human activities and nature, and keep that respect there. So yeah, it gave me so much hope. I mean, what about you? Is there a particular place, a particular species, or what gives you hope when you know, all the climate misery gets a little bit heavy?
It does get heavy. Well, I'm very lucky to have spent some time in Norfolk at the Wild Ken Hill, which is another rewilding project. Yes. And it's right on the coast there, so plus the wetlands, so you've got real mix of habitats and species. And before going there, I'd never seen a hare in real life, and there's hares everywhere.
Oh, that's cool.
There's a marsh harrier and a barn owl that kind of comes every evening sweeping over the fields. And I love how immersive it is there in nature, and take that feeling back with me to London, where I live, where there's not so much, but there's still, you know, amazing birds and insects and things to connect with on your doorstep. Yeah. But also what gives me a lot of hope is being able, when you're out and about in these places, and also, you know, through various initiatives around London and through my work, I meet a lot of people who are also really interested in nature, and they've devoted their whole careers to conservation, and you know, there's good guys out there too. That gives me a lot of hope.
Yeah, absolutely. I love how nature does connect so many different people. You know, it's not just the classic nature nerds that can find benefit from nature. And if you see someone going out with a pair of binoculars or with a camera, you know, it's such an easy way to strike up a conversation. And they could be so different to you. They can have a completely different lifestyle and upbringing, but that connection to nature connects you, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
No, absolutely. And finding that hope is so important, because, like we say, you know, we are in a state of biodiversity decline. You know, the UK is one of the most nature depleted countries in the world, and finding those moments of hope is so important, so that we can keep working hard to restore them, because there are so many species that are under threat. And of course, one of them is the reason we are all here today, the hen harrier. It feels really disappointing to still be talking about hen harriers and kind of the problems that we're having with restoring those populations, but you know, it's really important that we keep doing it. So how are hen harriers faring in the UK today in their populations? Well, the good news is there is some good news to report. So the RSPB carried out their hen harrier survey and published some results last year, and they have actually found a 20% increase in the number of territorial pairs in the mainland UK.
Celebrate the wins.
Yeah, we've got to celebrate the wins. We really do. So in 2016, there were 545 territorial pairs, and that number increased in last year to 653 pairs. So 20% increase. That's amazing, you know. And there's so many people out there that are working incredibly hard in incredibly difficult circumstances to recover the hen harrier and restore them. So, you know, an incredible thank you and congratulations to them for that work. Because the really sad thing is, though, even though that is an incredible increase, it's nowhere near what hen harriers should be in the UK. So again, the RSPB estimate, they did an estimation to see how many hen harriers should the UK be able to support, and they estimated it was about 2,650 pairs. So we're 2,000 short. We've got space, we've got habitat for 2,000 more pairs of hen harriers here in the UK. And what's hindering their success? Well, sadly, it is illegal killing. It's illegal shooting out of the sky, it's illegal tampering with nests, it's illegal trampling of eggs and killing of chicks. And the sad reality is that there's a very, very close association between this persecution and driven grouse moors. Hen harriers are far more likely to be killed or go missing when they're over grouse moors, and they're upland birds. They quite like nesting in moorland habitat, so there is that regular overlap with grouse moors, and so we have this illegal persecution continuing, and it's so disappointing that we're continuing to talk about it. It's illegal, you know. It's not only cruel, whatever your morals, it's incredibly cruel, and you know, harming a species that's already incredibly rare. But it's illegal. It's a legal activity that cannot continue, that cannot carry on, and it's completely hindering the success of the species in the UK, a red-listed species in the UK, where it's really quite successful across other parts of Europe, where this illegal persecution doesn't happen. So it's something that really, really has to change. And whilst it's frustrating, you know, that we're still talking about it, there is some good news on the cards for hen harriers, that we'll get to shortly. But it's also so important that we do keep talking about it and raising awareness and talking about it across, you know, all the communication spectrums to make sure that everyone is aware of the problem. And we're very privileged to now have a beautiful film that's doing just that. So this film, Bowl and Beth, is a collaboration between choreographers, filmmakers, dancers and poets that tell the story of Bowl and Beth. So Beth was a hen harrier born in the forest of Bowland, a real stronghold for hen harriers, but was sadly illegally persecuted and killed. So this story, this film depicts her story. We hope you enjoy it.
that she made shapes in air, that she saw the world as pattern and light, moorland to bare mountain, drawn by instinct, that she'd arrive at the corner of your eye, the ghost of herself going silent into the wind, that the music of her slipstream was a whisper drone tagged to wingtips, that weather was a kind of rapture. That her only dream was of flight, forgotten moment by moment as she dreamed it. That her low drift over heather, quartering home ground, might bring anyone to tears. That she would open her prey in all innocence, there being nothing of anger or sorrow in it. That her beauty was prefigured. That her sky dance went for nothing, hanging fire on plain air. That her name is meaningless, your mouth empty of it, mind empty of it. That the gunshot was another sound amid bird call, a judder if you had seen it, her line of flight broken. That she went miles before she bled out.
It's a really sobering film, that, isn't it? I mean, beautifully shot, beautifully choreographed and beautifully danced. And yeah, highly recommend reading or listening to the Bolenbeth poem as well. It's really quite striking. It depicts the kind of really sad state of Hen Harrier. It gets to the heart, I think, of the problem.
Yeah, it's stunning, that film. And you know, we saw at the end while the credits were rolling there how many people were involved in that, and such wide-ranging artistic talents that are all coming together. So we've got the dancer, we've got the filmmaker, photographer, we've got the poetry and the music, and all of these people with a drive to, you know, get the story of raptor persecution out there and about Bolenbeth. And I think that that's just really what conservation needs. You don't have to be a scientist, you know, you don't have to be a warden on this beautiful reserve, although we'd probably like to be. But, you know, you can harness any of your skills that you've got to raise awareness for these issues and get the messages out through different channels, you know, because people, through the arts, people can forge more of a connection with nature because of the whole emotion and the feeling that comes across when you're watching it. And if we have this connection with nature, then we will want to protect it more.
Absolutely.
And of course, we do need to protect these things.
Absolutely. You've got to have the art in the right place, haven't you?
Yeah, the more diverse voices speaking for nature, the better.
Absolutely, 100%. So, yeah, now something a little bit different. So, a bit of background. So, my local reserve is RSPB Duffstones, a series of reservoirs on the edge of the moorland. And it's kind of where my love of nature really came from, to be honest. And one of my fondest memories of that reserve is sitting watching the pair of peregrines hunt along the cliffs. And it's where they became my favourite bird, and they still are to this day. Now, I found out literally yesterday that sadly one of those birds has been shot and is now dead. And I found it pretty heartbreaking to know that one of the birds that, we know, literally one of the birds that got me into wildlife has been shot and has died in obviously unnatural circumstances. So it was shot through the wing, and it was later put down because of wounds underneath the left wing as a result of shotgun pellets. Now, it was shot on grouse moorland and it died of shotgun pellets. I mean, you don't need Hercule Poirot to figure out who killed it. Obviously, there is now an investigation going into this, which is good. Will anything come of it? I don't know, as with a lot of these cases, it's usually kind of left open, because understandably it is a difficult thing to work out. But there is some pretty sobering statistics that I did found that in under 20 years there has been nearly 200 incidents involving peregrines alone, not other raptors, just peregrines, which is just ridiculous. But some new legislation has just come in that does give people a little bit of hope. That the grouse industry will now be regulated for the first time in history in Scotland, just in Scotland, and on the 30th of April it was given royal assent, so basically it now is law.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it is really good. Now, this new system should act as a deterrent for landowners and shooters who could lose their licence if the killing of raptors is found on their estate. So basically the change has gone from, you know, if raptors were found to be killed and, you know, you could prove that it was specifically someone, if somebody was, you know, literally a j'accuse, it would be put, sorry, I know I shouldn't be really, you know, jokes aside, you know, if somebody was found to do it, then action could be taken. But now with this, just alone raptor persecution found on an estate is enough for somebody to lose a licence. And along with this, it will also mean that the burning of moorland to promote heather growth, which is often used because grouse like the young buds on heather, will now be limited to certain peatlands in certain circumstances. So that's also really beneficial for climate change and habitat restoration. Now, will this work or not? Because obviously it is a very recent thing. I mean, this was literally, you know, a few days ago this was made into law. So obviously it'll take, you know, a few years to figure out whether this is actually working. But we can only keep our fingers crossed that it will. And, you know, it is a step in the right direction. We've got to have hope, but we've also, you know, got to take it, you know, pinch of salt sort of thing that hopefully it'll work, but step in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, like you just said, raptor persecution, it's, you know, it's particularly prevalent for hen harriers, but so many of our birds of prey are subjected to it, you know, and it's hindering all their populations, it's hindering all their numbers, and it's something that needs to be eradicated. I mean, it's worth saying that there are very responsible land managers and game managers out there as well. Sadly, it seems to be a small number of, you know, bad seeds that are spoiling the pot, essentially.
Either that are really bad people at identifying birds that somehow got a grouse mixed up with a peregrine.
Or that. But yeah, no, absolutely. It's a step in the right direction, and hopefully one that we'll see kind of causing real change. Now, as a bit of an antidote to that sad story, we are going to now look at a beautiful film that's always going to remind us why we're here and why the hen harriers are so worth protecting. So this film was shot by Richard Burchett, who I'm very jealous of his hen harrier encounters. I've only seen him a handful of times, obviously being such a rare bird, but he seems to have got very lucky. So this film was shot between the Cairngorms and the Isle of Mull, and this is some beautiful footage of hen harriers just being hen harriers flying through the wind. So take it away, Richard. Thank you. How stunning was that? Beautiful.
That was beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Honestly,
gorgeous.
that bit in the rain
Oh,
at the beginning,
yeah.
was so relaxing.
It was. As long as you been to the bathroom beforehand.
Yeah. Very true. And they're such a rare sight to get all that footage. But you know what? I would just love one day if they just weren't a rare sight and you walk past one sat in a tree and you were like, ugh.
Yeah. Another hen harrier.
It's so boring.
That would be glorious.
That's
be.
the dream.
I know, absolutely.
But obviously at the moment that is not the case, and it's extremely important that we gather information on these populations, we can understand how they're faring, and that we can keep these birds safe. So if you're out and about and you do spot a hen harrier, we urge you to report sightings by emailing henharriers@rspb.org.uk. Reports should include the date and location of the sighting, as well as a 6-figure grid reference and a what 3 words where possible. It would also be really useful if you could jot down the bird's behaviour and even get a photograph if you can manage that. And speaking of photography,
smooth transition there, very smooth. Yes. So, earlier in the year, Hen Harrier Action ran a competition for young wildlife photographers called the Young Photographer Competition. Basically asking young people to capture signs of spring. And Richard Burchett did the judging, and we're now going to announce the results live. So, oh boy, thanks to our sponsors Opticron, the winner gets a 300 quid gift voucher, and the 3 runners up get a 100 quid gift voucher. I mean, I am signing up next year.
I was going to say, I wish I was young again. Still young.
So, the winner is, drum roll please, 15-year-old William Lambert with this stunning picture of a brown hare. Now, Richard commented on it. There was a sense of movement through the frame and the blurred water droplets as it moves through the grass. Congratulations, William, and your Opticon voucher is on its way. Congratulations also to the 3 runners-up, Jack Brackley, Joe Dagger, great name by the way, Felix Hoskins, and their pictures of a vibrant blue tit, cheeky barn owl, and soft-lit stone chat. Well done to you all too, and the vouchers are coming your way.
I think we're just about to see these images as well.
Going through. Oh, way! Like it.
There we go. Oh, look at that hair. That is stunning. I love hairs. It's the one. Oh, and there's our barn owl. That's amazing. Oh, the eye contact with that. That's stunning. Absolutely gorgeous. Serious blue steel. Absolutely amazing. And do we have another? Oh, and there's. Oh, I love a blue tit. I love a blue tit. That eyeliner is always just on point. You know, gotta get lessons. Oh, a lovely stone chat there. Nice. I do love a stone chat too. They're gorgeous images. I mean, photography is such a challenging, hobby. It's a blend of the technical and the creative, and bringing those two things together. It's really challenging. So yeah, massive congratulations to all those winners. And one of my favourite species that I've had the privilege of photographing and filming are beavers, and I'm very, very pleased to have actually had the opportunity to do that in the UK now, in Scotland, because they have been successfully reintroduced. And we're very lucky to be joined by Taze again, so thank you very much for coming to us again. We want to hear a little bit about the beaver reintroductions to the Cairngorms, because they are now back in the Cairngorms very excitingly, and we've got an amazing film that actually here on the RSPB Insh Marshes now, and we're really excited. We've got a film coming up that's going to tell us a little bit more about those. So I've got a couple of questions, if you don't mind, before we launch into that film. I mean, how do you feel personally about having beavers back in the Cairngorms?
Yeah, brilliant. It's been great, because I've seen beavers come back in Belgium, where I'm from originally, and it was exciting there during my childhood to see them come back and to witness it here again, with the struggles that come with it, but also the opportunities. It's brilliant, because I've seen it work, and having them on the reserve is really a milestone. It really will change how we do nature conservation, because the impact they have on the landscape and the biodiversity means we will have to do things that we didn't have to do in the past, and we will have to stop doing things that we were doing. So, and overall, that it means that it'll be less hands-on, which is a good thing. It'll be less disturbance, and also there's things that they do that we just can't do with our resources we have, or because we are cold in the winter, or things like that. Like beavers just crack on with what they do, and it's part of their nature, and their ecology just provides that biodiversity boost, and it's just things we can't do. So it's really exciting to see them here.
They are those ecosystem engineers, aren't they? They completely
absolutely
transform a landscape. I mean, what were the challenges, I suppose, into getting them here?
I mean, a lot is involved. It was a full year of hard work. Community consultation, engagement process is important, and the national park's been leading on that, but we've been supporting that, and I've been having to talk to a lot of our neighbours to kind of dissolve those myths and the fears that people have. Sometimes valid, sometimes not. They don't eat fish, but there's a lot of things to think about when you bring a beaver back in. So that was a big part of it. But then for the reserve, as a land manager as well, we have a lot of high value nature already, and it really is thinking about, okay, is the beaver gonna do some impacts as well that we don't like for a nature point of view as well, and with the amazing data we have from our nest boxes, we've protected some trees that have just been producing amazing numbers of golden eyes, things we want to keep, and we have to think about our woodland management in terms of our lichen communities on the reserve as well. So it's not just simple and straightforward. Beavers are good, put them in there.
Totally.
We put a lot of work in it as well, but the overall benefit will be huge.
We're so excited to see. I mean, they've literally just arrived, haven't they? They've not been here for very long. It's only been a few months, is it?
Absolutely. About 2 months now since the first ones have arrived in the area, and we've released them in March, so that's like 6 weeks ago or something like that.
So it'll be incredible to see that progression year on year on year.
Yeah.
But let's find out a little bit more about how that reintroduction took place. We've got a lovely film now, also featuring Taze, that will tell us a little bit more about how they got here and what effect we're hoping that they'll have. So enjoy the film.
Cairngorms National Park is a really important and special place for wildlife, and the National Park Authority have brought beavers back to the Cairngorms after they've been missing for nearly 400 years, and they're back to help us in our fight against climate change and biodiversity loss. Alongside our large-scale catchment restoration work, beavers will help us restore freshwater environments, kick-starting ecological processes and function. After extensive engagement work with communities, landowners and businesses, we've secured a licence from Nature Scott. Our licence is for the first wild release of beavers into a new catchment in Scotland. It's for 5 years, for up to 50 beavers into the Upper Spey catchment. And we're delighted that Insh Marshes is one of the first 3 sites to receive beavers in the Cairngorms, and it's great to be working with the RSPB and other delivery partners on this exciting project. Whilst we know that beavers are going to bring lots of benefits, we also acknowledge that in some locations there are going to be challenges and impacts. That's why we've got a dedicated beaver officer to help people live and work alongside beavers in the national park. For more information about the project, check out our social media channels and website.
I think as humans we have a responsibility to think about that. If humans caused the disappearance of a species, we want to think about whether that would be useful for an area to get the species back. Whether it's a native species or not, sometimes that's ambiguous, but I think that's actually a bit off the point. I think if we think bringing a species back is useful for an ecosystem, then we should really consider that. And obviously there's a lot to think about when you do that. There's a lot of responsibility to make sure that that happens in a correct way. And that's why there's international guidelines to do that. But definitely it's an exciting thing to bring back ecosystem functions and back into an ecosystem, so that you have to manage them less as people, so less disturbance in those areas than if those functions are back into the system. So that's why I think certain species reintroductions are really important actually going forward for nature conservation, to keep it sustainable and with long-term visions as well. So a really, really important tool, I think, for conservation. Yeah, so beavers on Insh Marshes can play a really important role for the reserve. So we pride ourselves for being a reserve with dynamic systems, dynamic habitats. They don't stay the same; they're in transition, and a beaver has the capacity to really bring that to the next level. Really create new habitats. Just constantly change the environment slightly so that there's new habitats for colonizing species, and other areas that are allowed to succeed back to like climate vegetations as well. So it's that management, rotation management that beavers have in their ecology is so useful for nature, that brings that biodiversity back. In particular, I can give you a few examples of like things that really will make a difference. So our floodplains, they are flat at the moment, and there are some ponds in there and some areas with more shrub and some with less. So beaver will impact those areas differently through space and time. And they'll make short, small runnels into the floodplain, get to those small compartments of woodland sometimes, which creates some really nice, narrow but deeper ditches that we don't have at the reserve at the moment, which are good for waterfowl, for example. The edges of our woodlands on the floodplain, they are now all regenerating because we do deer control. We try to get more trees coming up, but those trees at some point, we constantly want regeneration on the reserve. So if we just allow all the trees to grow, become mature, then those younger stages of trees that are also important for lots of invertebrates on the reserve, they won't be here forever. And with bringing a beaver in, you allow that constant succession to happen, and all those different stages will be present at all times. And that's really what beavers bring to us. Which if we didn't have beavers, we would have to do it to really boost our biodiversity on the reserve. So the edges of woodlands and wetlands, that's a key thing. And then the floodplain dynamics themselves as well, they create temporary ponds, permanent ponds, those runnels that I mentioned before. Those are like quite specific examples. A key part for having beavers back not only on the reserve but back in this landscape and in Scotland, I think for me it's super important that people start having a mind shift toward nature, and beavers can play a very big role in that, because it brings nature closer. For people who love it already, it's something amazing to experience, to see a beaver and to see a landscape change. And other people, it forces to think about it a bit more, because they obviously can have a big impact on land use. And I think that's a good thing. I think that the more people who are thinking about, okay, how can I live and work and make an income with nature, the more interest there will be as well, and the better it'll be done. And I think that's one of the key things in conservation that still needs to improve, is like really thinking about how our society sits together with nature, the nature that we want in the future, the nature that's climate resilient, the nature that provides us things, and that we really value those things as a society as well. Things like more fire resistant forests in the future. Beaver can help with that. Things like climate, actually fighting climate change, so like sequestering more carbon, thinking again about, okay, which of our habitats that we provide for us are also sequestering carbon. So that could be permanent grasslands, are very good at that, but wetlands are definitely one of those habitats that beavers bring back and have that potential to really sequester carbon as well, more than drier ground can do sometimes, depending on the context. So that's, for me, that's the most exciting thing about the beavers coming back.
not only on the reserve but in Scotland really, and really making big changes for both in people's minds and people's relationship with nature, as in really tackling these big challenges that we have at the moment with our climate and our environment. So yeah, good news.
Fantastic. They just fit so seamlessly in with the surroundings, don't they? Like they just belong here.
It's like they've been there forever, haven't they?
I know.
Since they get in there. Yeah.
I'm so pleased. I hope we see this trend continuing. You know, I can feel it feels like they keep on popping up more and more often in different bits of Scotland and different bits of the UK in general. And yeah, I just hope that trend continues. And we have the same with beavers, with the hen harriers. We just get bored of seeing them. That'd be nice.
They're walking along the road. Yeah. Abbey Road before beavers just walking across. You know.
What a dream.
What a dream.
I think sadly we're going to have to wrap up, aren't we now? Yes. This is comes to the end of Skydancer Day 2024, which is a real shame.
Yeah.
I know. It's been a really nice couple of hours or hour and a half. Don't know where we've got to here, but well, if you want to hear more about hen harrier action and all the things we've got going on, you can head to the website to get more information there. That's henharrierday.uk. And all of our video content can be found on the Hen Harrier Action YouTube channel.
Fantastic. And thank you so much to all of you for watching. You know, we couldn't do it without you guys. And thank you for all your lovely comments as well. We were looking at those in the break, so thank you. Thank you to all of our guests for making films for us, for contributing their artwork, their poetry, their songs. Again, we're so appreciative for everyone working hard to protect hen harriers and protect upland species. And thank you to all our guests that featured and chatted to us live. We really, really appreciate it. And thank you to RSPB for hosting us at this incredible venue. I don't know about you guys, I'm going to go for an explore pretty soon.
Same. I'm heading off.
Absolutely. Make sure you're supporting all those organisations. You know, check out their websites, donate to them if you can, donate to Hen Harrier Action if you can, and check out the website for more information and more events that are coming up very soon.
Yep, and remember on the 10th of August at Caston Waters, it is Action Day. So if you're in the area, show up. If not, tune in online. And I'm going to leave you with a joke that took me roughly a three-hour coach journey to complete. Totally worth it. This is my audition to become the 7th Monty Python. So, what do you get if you cross a beaver with Elvis?
I don't know.
Beaver, Las Vegas. Thank you very much.
Oh man, on that note. Thank you so much, everyone. Take care.
See you later.
We'll see you next year. Bye.
It's a wrap.